The top 10 Marvel Contest of Champions that desperately need a buff. Yes, hello everybody, hope you're all well. Welcome to the Thursday video. Please remember to hit the like button, subscribe with post notifications on all, and help for this year's goal of hitting to 70,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It can only be done with the support of you all, so please consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't done already. Let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, between 2014 and about 2015, new champions that were added to the game, or champions that are part with the original beta of Marvel Contest of Champions, lack that extra oomph, hence the reason that a lot of them have been buffed. And yes, there have been some more modern champions in your 2019s and 2020s, to name but one, Terrax, which is one of the ones that has been buffed next month, hence the reason why we're looking to more than the ones that are stipulated to be buffed that also need a buff. The 10 champions I have selected are based on just a personal opinion, or as champions that I just feel that have not got to look into, either fall into the category are like very early on in the game, I'm talking 2014, 2015 and stuff like that, and especially aren't used in any type of content, do not have something that will take on a certain node like buffed up, or something like diss track, or other types of node interactions, which, let's face it, nowadays that's what we need champions to do. I'm also going to use this as an opportunity to look at some comic book stuff and tie it into, well, what are they missing, what's in game, but what is not in game as well, and maybe just a few things that I feel that Kabam could go down the route in order to improve said champion. But let's face it, they definitely need a buff. Let's kick things off with Rhino. Now, I do feel with Rhino that he's not really done a solid in the game. Yes, there are synergies to improve this champion, but when it comes to the extent of damage ramp up, that is possible. And even though I've done a what if series as a rank 6 star, it's a case that this champion just lacks that extra oomph and any kind of usability, if that is a word, in any kind of great content diversity. And I would say, because the champion doesn't really possess anything of great value in fury and strength, it is what is lacking from any kind of comic book source material. That element of brute strength that we are accustomed to if we have seen things when it comes to cinematography, comic books and everything, and even TV shows. I think I remember seeing stuff in Spider-Man or X-Men Animated. I want to say it's more Spider-Man. And it just wasn't a case that he's in-game as strong as he should be. So that's really one of the first champions that needs to be looked into. Next up is Juggernaut. Now, with Juggernaut, he should possess a lot more of the powers that have been given to him by the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak, Cyttorak's Gem, all the Cyttorak stuff should be empowering this character, this champion, more than he is. He does feel that he isn't as strong. There are a few synergies out there to ramp him up, but it does lack elements of the mystical prowess, properties and infusement that Cyttorak is meant to give to this character. And it's surprising in MCOC that we don't see more things like invulnerable, regeneration, and things that even putting like an indestructible buff in for the champion, similar on the rotation to Luke Cage, could be a little bit of a booster to this champion. But I think more with the elements of strength and damage, this champion should be punching more, and especially more of a nod to things like the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak and Cyttorak's improvement of this character. Our next pick is Ultron, or both Ultrons. At the end of the day, these characters are so incredibly main when it comes to a hashtag villain, main protagonist, that I would have expected them both to be damage outputting more. And maybe with the previous meta of the game, say several years ago, with different types of content, this champion, this character would be incredibly viable. Yes, there could be a way of utilizing debuffs when it comes to bleeds. Yes, there are poisons. Yes, there are furies in some sort of ways with different champions, like the other variant getting fury. And yes, there are things with double immunities. So there are elements of good things about these characters, but they're not ramping up the same way that you'd expect from looking at source material, and as well what we'd expect from a strong robot that is meant to be one of the deadliest villains in the Marvel Universe. And this is where the problem of having the two different versions comes in, especially with tractor beams, radiation emitters, which like poison essentially is what the Ultron Prime version does against the standard Ultron Age of Ultron version, which we've seen in game. But there are so many other things that are just not there. The durability, which I do understand is there with the regeneration, with the double regeneration, but it's not something that is playing to the extent of damage output that the character could and should have. And that's really the issue, is a lot of stuff with one character could be given to the other character, but both could retain the same things. With one being too much like the movie, with the Prime version, which is a very difficult champion to get, but isn't exactly punching a huge amount of damage, with things like robo-ticks and so many other bits of little elements of tech that could be vastly improving. It would be debatable whether or not there'll be a nod to things like armor and as well Ultron's outer shell being made of adamantium. But, you know, that is something Kabam could look into to make it really stand out. More on the damage output side of things than ever. Next up, I've got to talk about Superior Iron Man. This is an important suit for anybody that knows the Iron Man story arc. In game, he's got those armor breaks. He's got that armor, but to be honest, there's not really much on board. We've got the arc overload, but let's face it, how is that useful in this day and age, especially if the champion isn't doing much damage? This suit is incredibly important and the look is just so cool. It's just not utilized as well as it could be in MCOC. This is one of the times that it's based off of things like the symbiote and the way that it kind of bonds with the particular host. And this is where I unfortunately feel that Iron Man Infinity War, which does take on the idea of the extremis type armor or this kind of like nanotech type stuff. The movie version overshadows the Superior Iron Man version, which is annoying because a lot of the good stuff about what Superior Iron Man cosmic version is, yes, overshadowed by this version. Further evidence of this can be found here because this effectively is suit number 50, which the Superior Iron Man armor is, which is the disappointment side of things, because it's basically saying Iron Man Infinity War is actually Superior Iron Man in game, just in a different color and different class. That this really is what it's meant to be. So is there anything that can be done about this from Kabam creating this? Well, unfortunately the answer is no, not really. But if Kabam were to look back at the suit number 50 and pick some stuff that's not in Iron Man Infinity War, which is in game, they could create something. I just feel this would be good. Maybe look at the tendrils, because that's another thing. Missed off tendrils that even could be used to do stuff, causing armor to explode inside and out from the internal force. There's stuff that could be done that's not in game and not what we've seen on the screen and the version that fortunately and unfortunately Iron Man Infinity War is based off of. So yes, my hope is that there could be a buff for Superior Iron Man, but I feel that because it's a bit of a duff character, it should be looked into in some sort of way. Next on the list is got to be Iron Fist. Iron Fist is just weak. When it comes to like source material and stuff, it's weak. It doesn't do much when it comes to damage output. It's ultimately underwhelming for a character of this magnitude, and it's desperately in need of a buff because, look, let's face it, people have had this champion or had an opportunity to get this champion for years, and it is just not good enough. There's 6-star versions that are just weak. You've got an immortal version, which is a bit of a rare champion to get out of max signature crystals, and it's just pants, or as we say in the UK, underwear. The character is meant to do so much more when it comes to the chi enhanced physiology, but mainly the way that the champion and the character would use chi to improve and revitalize itself, learn from opponents, and just kind of meditate, relax, but as well have better reflexes, energy absorption, and so much more than we see in game. I did a video last month on this character, funnily enough, but maybe down the line there will be a revamp. It's definitely needed. Next up is Joe Fixit. Had to be Joe Fixit. Can Joe fix it? No, he absolutely cannot. Rather than looking at any kind of source material for this character, there's nothing really that can be said. It is Joe, it's Hulk that's a bit grey due to different personality swaps, due to whatever's going in the cuckoo bananas brain of Bruce Banner, in a suit, as a tough man in Vegas with a gun. So what should he really do? What should he really be? Anything really that has elements of fury. You could add like more to this. You could add more things when it comes to like fury. Yes, the kind of the gambler's fate thing is tying into what's going on with this character. Yeah, there could be more oomph when it comes to those buffs. They could cycle a little bit more. Same way that I think the Abyss of Legends versions gets one, and then every special attack cycles a different one. Maybe you could choose the type of gambler's fate that you had, and you could regen whenever you wanted to regen. You can switch between doing different types of stuff, damage outputting more, doing something when it comes to withstanding and being more tankier, to like take damage at times. You know, have that choice of the gambler's fate every time you do a special attack. End on a certain thing. chain a heavy into a special and do the healing one. Do something a different way and it does something else. There's so many different ways you can go with this character and tie it into the way that he's this Vegas bruiser, this Vegas bodyguard and doorman. So yeah, lots can be done with this character. Antman is next on my list because I do feel that he does need to be looked at. He does need to be reworked. His damage output is less than exceptional with this game. It's not even exceptional. It's not even good. The rate of damage with any kind of champion needs to be up. There needs to be something of a usage for different kinds of nodes, and currently Antman has neither of them. It could be a case you put him on a team for whatever reason. Back in the day you'd have Antman Yellow Jacket in order to pad out and put more just damage into things like Labyrinth of Legends. Very early on that was the case. Now it's very different because there's so many other champions. But yeah, Antman doesn't really have it. There's not strong poison damage from this champion. That is not strong damage in any kind of way. Glancing helps with the sustaining damage coming into you, but apart from that, nobody will really use this as a lead champion or a champion to interact with any kind of nodes and other stuff. Antman's potential could be limitless, especially if you're considering the ideas of him going incredibly large. And yes, there are other champions like Mephisto. When he goes into large, you can grabs, puts them in his mouth and spits them out. The same way that other ones, I think it was Dormammu does this stomp. So there could be an option to change or rework his SP3 to be really kind of like tall and do a lot more damage. And that could be the big builder for the champion. Doing SP3s equal more damage or kind of equal something of a vulnerability or something of a stun of some kind that's exponentially powerful. And there could be a build of like attack power, the same way that, you know, Magneto, so many others have been reworked, get a real boost when it comes to doing an SP3. But there could be a lot more that could be done with the character. Going subatomic could be better for the damage output side of things, or doing something of a swipe attack could allow the character to go small and do some damage in some kind of way that's more in a subatomic level than it would be in the normal just standing. The glancing side of things is cool, but it just feels that there could be much more done with this character. 8 on the list has got to be Diablo. I understand what Caban were trying to do with this character when putting in, but it's very complex and doesn't punch as hard when it comes to cycling through those different types of concoctions. And for me, when I tried to do a what if series on this character, I just got so bored with playing this champion and just not enjoying it that I went, no thank you. Diablo is one of those champions that I think that if you are interested in cycling through different types of usages for those concoctions, then it could be great if they amplify the healing and damage output and other areas. For me personally, I just don't like resetting all of these different things to have these concoctions active during different fights. From a questing standpoint, it's going to be frustrating each time to kind of like restart up those concoctions. And for longer hit pool fights, they need more bang for their buck. That's the thing with this champion. Do you want to go and take it against some endgame content? And a lot of the time the answer is no, not at all. Especially with the damage output not being there, the sustainability when it comes to the health not being there. There's some cool stuff with the stun immunity, which could be helpful in certain circumstances, but there's nothing of a broad spectrum of coverage for kind of taking on different content. Things change. Act 7 is Act 7.1, Act 6 are things that this particular champion is just a lot of times just not suited for. Kabam have pretty much got the champion nailed down when it comes to like source material and stuff, the way that switching between different types of these concoctions to do things like energy damage. And again, this is the problem. It can perform temporal molecular transmutation, modeling surfaces, features, and cause explosions equivalent to 56 pounds of TNT. Well, let's just face it, in-game he is definitely not doing that. And again, this will be down to whether or not Kabam can create something that's either not as complex, easy to cycle through, and as well will have the damage output that players would need and the usability in various different content. The next character on my list is Howard the Duck. This character presents so much of a troubled state for the game. Back when there was just these weird characters being put in, and not to say that there's no problem with odd or obscure characters being put in, but it was at a time of going, Howard the Duck is in Marvel Contest of Champions, even more so for saying like, we're going to put him in a mech suit. That's been at times, I think he's been referred to as the Iron Duck, especially in comic book lineage. And I'm not going to show up any comic book like stuff because there's not really anything to compare off. This is a truly unique make, especially for what the character possesses. And I think at the time when Kabam were building this, they were building their own kind of design of character with stuff when it comes to, like, you know, what the character can do. But unfortunately, it's not a huge amount. Maybe back in the day could be used for about a couple of months before being a little bit useless for any different type of content that was being presented. Even more so because its damage output really isn't there. There's nothing truly unique, and especially by an SP2 standpoint of having more of a chance to do something rather than you presetting what you want to and what you need to do, it does present a very much underwhelming character to be in the game. And that's the thing, there's a little bit of regen off the signature ability, but apart from that, there's nothing really to write to anybody and say, hey, this is a great champion, and this is definitely one that deserves a buff in Assaults. And the final character is Civil Warrior. Now, for this one, I felt a lot could be done with this. There's a lot of potential, and this is the bit of an iffy one to say that this one has to be worked or reworked. It's got an arm buff, which is great. It's got power control, which is great. It's got a heal block, which is great. And those are three things that can be an option if you have no other options. If you need an option to take down Havoc, then this could be an option. If you need an option for power controlling, then again, option. Heal block, yes, lots of circumstances will need you to have a heal block champion, and very early on in the game I do recommend Civil Warrior as a champion to get you there. But this could be a champion that could be given so much more when it comes to the damage output side of things. Let me look at the signature ability right here. An upgrade to Civil Warrior's Arc Shield grants him 2 armor up buffs, charges at the start of the fight, so it's just a case of it just doesn't do anything. Additionally, he receives special damage and percentage resistance while blocking and 30% when fighting mutant champions. So it's not something that is overly great. If this is a champion that's meant to build armor, then make the armor mean something, the same way that Colossus has armor, and it means something for him having armor up buffs. And not to say there's anything great when it comes to comic book history, because a lot of the times this has been written by the actions in things like Marvel Contest of Champions. There is stuff when it comes to the Hydra Warrior type thing and the way that he's Hydra Supreme or something like that, when he gets involved with Hydra and he gets this like outfit and stuff. It's similar-ish, not exactly the same, just to kind of put that there. But it would be nice, because this character is able to do so much more with this Stark technology, that it means something about this character having more damage potential than Steve Rogers, then Iron Man. Have them fused together to do more damage and be more of a key character, especially because a lot of players get this champion and either using it early on or down the line. It just would be better to have this champion buffed up in some description, and especially with everybody having this at 5-star. I'm not sure about 6-star, but still, if it is a 6-star, then man, definitely needs to be revamped up. There we go, that's concluded the list of my top 10 champions that desperately need a buff. Thank you very much for watching this video. Put in the comment section, who would you like to be desperately buffed up that definitely needs it? And also make sure to check out some content recently posted up there. And as well, I'll see you in another video and also in a live stream very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.